the country's in serious trouble. 808-5600. We've got a lot of folks on the phone here. Tom, you're up first on Hot Talk 560 KSFO. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me on your show.
Glad to have you here.
My question is for Dana Walsh. And Dan, I saw you and heard you speak at 4 Point Sheraton in San Rafael. Really enjoyed what you had to say. And I wanted to ask about your experience, and would you give us 2 or 3 main points that would qualify you due to your experience in private business, and 2 or 3 main points that would tell us your qualification through experience in government affairs.
Very good. I think, it's interesting. My background in industrial design is very much problem-solving oriented, and one of the things I find in what we see coming out of government is it really never solves any problems. It basically tries to manage them and build bureaucracies around them. So I think the kind of training I've had would be very important in helping to design legislation, or more importantly, to pull back on some of the regulations and legislation there is. So I think the problem-solving background I have would be very good for that in a variety of levels. And then as far as political in the political world, when I was president of a local merchants association, we did very simple, straightforward things. Like we had, I was president of the Greater Clement Street Merchants Association out in the avenues. And what happened was the city was putting in some new sewer lines, and it was taking forever, and all the merchants were being very adversely affected, and we see that all the time today. And what I did was I got together with the city, and I got together with our members, and we worked out a plan that we let them go 2 or 3 blocks at a time instead of the way they were going. And we came in, I think it's one of the only projects in the city that this ever happened. We came in under budget and under the time frame, and we ended up giving a big party for all the people, the construction people who are working. But that's the sort of problem-solving, simple, straightforward kind of solutions we need in government that are not there. And I think, too, I've made the case many times that I think one of the biggest problems we have in Congress is that it's a bunch of lawyers, and they always look to the past for the answers to problems. And we know one thing right now, and the answers to the problems of the 21st century are not going to be found in the past. And I would like to see people who are designers and entrepreneurs and engineers, just because of the way they think about things differently, to get more involved in politics and throw out all the lawyers who put out 2,500-page healthcare bills. I think it would be very helpful and very refreshing and good for our country.
John, same question to you.
Yeah, well, I actually, I grew up in a public housing project in Jersey City, New Jersey, and I had a very interesting experience. I mean, that opened my eyes to what government programs are really all about. It became an unmanageable situation after we moved out. They actually had to dynamite all those buildings, those 13-story buildings, into dust. Because, like everything else, government overpromises, underdelivers, and it ruins lives and resources in the process. From there, I went on to co-found a company that's a $200 million company these days, and you learn how to develop relationships and and build something. I think when it comes to working in government, it depends on the kind of work that you want to do. I mean, you're working to restore individual liberty, or you're working to just get something done so that you have it on your resume. For me, I like the old Ayn Rand saying, which in the compromise between food and poison always wins. So I would like to create the kinds of work in Congress to create the kinds of laws that restore individual liberty. That's the direction that we have to go in if the republic's going to be saved anyway. So, next call 808-5600. Kirk, you're up on KSFO. How are you doing?
I'm well. Thank you, Mark. You're doing a splendid job. And I would mention who your voice reminds me of, but I'm afraid it's over on the KQED side. But you're doing a great job. Ms. Walsh and Mr. Dennis, I thank you both for running. I actually think it is a courageous thing. I'm a gay man, and I don't think that liberty has an identity group. I think that it applies to everyone. In this world today, Nancy Pelosi has asserted jurisdiction over our bodies with this Health Care Act. So I'm pretty sensitive to boundaries, and I'm pretty sensitive to jurisdiction, and following the law. And following that law is going to be impossible. So to Ms. Walsh, I'm concerned, will you be able to vote for yourself? Will you receive a ballot where you can actually vote for yourself?
No, I will not. I will not get that, no. I don't think that one vote is going to make the difference.
Well, that's not actually my point. My point is whether or not you're interested in boundaries and a law and order world where we uphold the laws.
Well, I should explain that by the law and by the Constitution, I'm well within. I'm well within my rights to run for this race. I don't understand the question really, because again, according to the Constitution, it's totally legitimate.
Yeah, we had a similar situation a couple of years back with John Doolittle's seat over in Placer County, where Tom McClintock was ultimately elected, even though he's a Southern Californian who happens to have a place up in the district. So, are you suggesting that it's an important issue in your vote, how you're casting your vote, Kirk?
It is an important issue for my vote because I believe in law and order, and I believe that if it were important enough, then move your residence. If you want to run in District 8 and run against Nancy Pelosi, which I applaud you for doing, then do it. Have the courage of your convictions. That's my point.
All right. Appreciate the call, Kirk.
Thank you.
808-5600. Next up here, let's say hello to Janet. Janet, you're on KSFO. How are you?
Hello. Thank you for having me. I just wanted to mention that I met Dana Walsh at a Sonoma Valley Republican Women's Luncheon. I sat with her for lunch, and I found her to be very down-to-earth and very real. And I liked everything that she had to say. I really felt like she represented my own beliefs. And I really don't know much about John Dennis, but in listening here to the program, I'm very concerned about how when we talk about making cuts, which we desperately need, that there are so many areas, millions of line items that we could talk about, and he goes to defense, and that really concerns me. It just seems like, when just like the Secretary of Defense now, talking about maybe we should look at our military pay and whatnot, and that really concerns me that we always go there when we have so many other areas that we could look at.
Yeah, it's a fair question, and we just happened to get onto that topic. But as I think I may have mentioned earlier, if I didn't, first of all, someone who never served in the military, I hold a special place in my heart for people who would put their lives on the line to protect the liberty of other Americans. And it's one of the reasons why I've put in some things in my platform to protect veterans when they come back from serving. We just happen to talk about the defense things first, but if you see my website, you'll see that I call for wide-ranging cuts and actually the abolition of the Department of Education, Departments of Agriculture, Commerce, Energy. I mean, we just need to start cutting wholesale. And my goal would be to do what was done from 1920 to 25. This is the vision. The political will is another thing. But to do what we did from 20 to 25, which was to cut the federal government from 54%. So if you like the idea of having a federal government that's 46% of the size of what it is now in 2015, then you and I are in big agreement. But defense isn't the very first place I would look, but we have to look everywhere.
It's a target-rich environment. Let's put it that way. It's a very target-rich environment. I appreciate your call. 808-5600. Question for both of you to field, and John, I'll toss it to you first since you just gave the answer. There's a huge constituency for the government not getting smaller. Roughly half the population these days not paying taxes on the dole one way or another, and the old-fashioned welfare mom is paled in comparison to like the executives at AIG. People who work for the government, people who depend on the government for checks. You mentioned cutting Social Security to a retired person. You're going to have a fight in your hands, even though they're not getting the money. It's being distributed elsewhere. How do you battle the critical mass of people who benefit from the system such as it is?
Well, yeah, this is the toughest part, right? Because you can't cut entitlements in the short term. It just would be cruel. I think it'd be inhumane, and it's just not something we can do. But we do absolutely need to look at them over the medium term and the long term. And I think you have to look at, raising the ages of being able to collect benefits. I mean, the truth of the matter is this. I mean, David Walker from the GAO said this a few years ago. We'd have to have 53 or it's probably up to $59 trillion in the bank today to cover our unfunded liabilities. They're not going to get paid one way or the other. The only choice is, are we going to address them or are they going to address us? So we have to start looking at them over the medium and the long term. But in the short term, you can't do it.
Being from Jersey, somebody's going to come